Hey everyone, welcome to the introductory section of the Queen's Commerce Admissions Bootcamp by Admissions Ally. This module is going to focus exclusively on the Queen's Commerce program itself. So we're going to cover all the pros and cons, everything that you need to know to make sure you're making the perfect decision for you and that this program in this university is a good fit for your needs and your preferences as to what you're looking for in a future university. So, who am I? My name is Joel Nicholson. I am a Queen's Commerce grad. I graduated in 2010. When I graduated, I moved to Australia to work for a management consulting firm called A.T. Kearney. I worked all over Asia and ended up in New York, where I spent a year there working for the World Economic Forum. Then after that, I moved back to Canada. I moved to Toronto to co-found a ed tech company called Campus Rankings, which helps students figure out where they want to go to college and university. I was the managing director there for a while. Once we sold the company, I stayed on for a little bit longer. And now I am the founder and lead instructor of admissionsally.ca. So when I was at Campus Rankings, we developed a category of 9 different preferences that people like you, students, look for in a prospective undergraduate program. Now, these preferences are very specific and exclusive for undergraduate programs. What students look for in a graduate program and an undergraduate program are very different. And so we wanted to, at my company, figure out what are the 9 things that students look for, and here they are. So what I'm going to do in this module is go through each of these 9 factors specific to Queen's Commerce. So before I do that, I want to run through quickly what these individual factors are. The first is student resources. So these are things like, the technology services and IT support, academic support and mental wellness, health services actually on campus, and campus security. Next, we have the location in the city, so the weather in this city, different job opportunities, restaurants and nightlife. If you're a foodie, leisure opportunities if you want to get out and about and do things outside of the campus. Career opportunities, this is fairly self-explanatory in terms of job placement, career services departments, co-op programs, that type of thing. Then we have extracurriculars, the number of opportunities on campus and the quality of them. Then we actually have the campus facilities themselves, so residences, campus grounds, food and dining, that type of thing. We have the student culture, so what type of culture is on campus and what type of culture does Queen's Commerce have? We have the academics, so the professor teaching quality, the courses that are available. We have the alumni, so the strength and size of the alumni network, if it's global or if it's a little bit more local. And then we have another category called overall advocacy. So these are things like whether or not students would recommend the program or the university, whether or not they're happy actually attending that school, the overall value of education, taking into account the cost of tuition, and in terms of returning students, if they're an alumni, would they make the same decision back in grade 12, whether or not to go to that same school and that same program, or if they choose another program like Ivy or Laurier or that type of thing. So let's jump right into student resources. Queen's itself has a fairly archaic system that you use to select courses and even apply. So once you apply through UAC, you'll get a net ID that you have to access this internal sort of IT platform called Solus. And that's where you complete your personal statement of experience. It is frustrating, to say the least, to navigate this thing. And this is the same platform that you're going to be choosing your courses. It is stressful choosing your courses on this. It shuts down. It has particular hours of operation. It's just super archaic and frustrating. So in terms of technological advancement, I would not give Queen's an A+ by any means. But with that said, Smith School of Business and the Smith Commerce program does have a much more advanced system internally for their commerce students, where you can book you can book study rooms or group breakout rooms where you can sort of access news and different sort of things for the Smith Commerce students themselves. So not too great of technology integration in Queens as a whole, a little bit better at Smith, but that's the gist of it for there. But in terms of actually IT support, Queens Commerce does offer some great support. They have something called the Student Computing Center, which is located, I believe, in the basement of the of Goods Hall. It's awesome. It has Bloomberg terminals if you're into investing. It has all different printing facilities and sort of equipment that you'd need to print anything, because very few students actually have printers anymore in their residences. And in terms of IT help, we have all Smith students have access to their own IT support services. So within your tuition, you can basically drop off your Mac, you can drop off any laptop that you have, and they'll give you a loaner and they'll try to fix it for all, depending on what issue that you're having. I believe that is 100% included in your tuition in terms of the services. Obviously, if you have to buy a new motherboard or any sort of equipment for your computer, that's not going to be covered in your tuition. But actually looking at it themselves, the service is there for you. So that's it's super helpful and sometimes a lifesaver. And one of the recent investments that Smith has made is, I believe it's only one counselor, but they have invested in a Smith Commerce specific mental health counselor. So Smith students can book a session with this registered counselor. It's 100% confidential in terms of, talking through adjusting to university, anxiety issues, which is a huge thing on campus right now. Whether you're feeling sort of down in the dumps after potentially maybe you did poorly on an exam. It's really important. Obviously, it's a big narrative today. It's something that parents really want their students to have access to. And Smith, has actually invested in their own counselor outside of the Queen's University counselors themselves, so that Smith students have like that exclusive access. So that's great. We also have academic counselors. We didn't have this type of counseling service here, but I remember sitting down with academic counselors on a number of times. For example, one of my friends was competing in the Olympics, in the 2008 Olympics in Vancouver, and me and a friend, we wanted to fly over there and go cheer him on. And I met with my academic counselor because it was going to be within the exam time when he was competing, and I asked if I could just simply write my exams after when I got back, and she said no problem. They were very, very supportive in that. So that was great to get that sort of support and access to these academic counseling services while I was there, and you'll get the same sort of ones as well. Okay, so in terms of location, the city and the location itself, Kingston is a small student city. It is only around, I think it's only around 100,000 population, so it's not a big city by any means, but it's pretty historic, actually. It was Canada's first capital city, I believe, before Ottawa. And it is around 2 to 3 hours away from both. Ottawa is only 2 hours away, which is where I'm from originally, which was, a great proximity away from home. Not too far away from home, but just far enough away from the parents, just so that they're not sort of bombarding my university experience. But close enough, of course, so that they could drop by and, buy me groceries or do the typical parents things that every university student needs. Most of you guys are going to be from Toronto, so Kingston's only around 3 hours away from Toronto, give or take, with traffic and whatnot. So in my opinion, I think it's a great size of a city. It has all the amenities that you need. It sort of gives you that quintessential university experience without being, in the middle of nowhere. I think the city is very beautiful. It's located right on Lake Ontario, and it's a very picturesque city itself. But it gets quite cold. The average number of days with freezing temperatures are high, and it's not as bad as Ottawa, which is where I'm from, but definitely is going to be a shock to your system for you Torontonians, or even people from Southern Ontario, maybe even anyone from BC. It is going to be a wake up call. If you see the days with freezing temperatures, it starts in October, 6 days here, 16 in November, 26, and then it's a brutal winter up until around April. Once you see spring starting to show its head. So it's a cold place. But it has a great food scene. This is an article by Narcity on the 11 restaurants every foodie needs to hit in Kingston. It never fails to impress me. I still believe they have the most restaurants per capita out of any city in Canada. And they're great restaurants. Honestly, it is a underappreciated city for restaurants and nightlife and even tourism. So highly recommended visiting the city and not just eating on campus. Off-campus housing, on the other hand, always fails to impress everyone. Here is a typical sort of cartoon representation of a off-campus housing unit. We call this area that Queen's students live in second and third and fourth year. We call it the ghetto. I believe there's, a more official name that the university uses that's sort of like the Queen's, university, student area. But the ghetto is what we call it for a reason. The houses are brutal, and landlords just don't really invest in improving the quality of these houses because they know students will have a demand for them regardless. So the house that I lived in was condemned the year after we lived in it. It was just, the city said it was pretty much unlivable. And so this representation is 100% accurate for at least my experience. I don't think we had mice, and these ghetto bugs, if you want to search the term ghetto bugs, it's basically like these bugs that started appearing in 2015 in houses across Kingston with a ton of legs and sort of freaked people out across campus. I think it's a pretty standard bug, not very harmful. But in any case, leaky floors, exposed plumbing, broken windows, bad insulation, broken fire alarms, uneven floors. These are the types of things that we just endured and didn't complain about as students living off campus. But to the same extent, these off-campus housing units have an endearing quality to them. Here's a bunch of students hanging out on the roof of one of the off-campus housing units. I believe this was for homecoming weekend in Queens. So that's housing. Next, on to factor number 3, career. So Queen's Commerce has a fairly significant on-campus recruitment that Smith, staff have worked very hard to get. Some of the best companies in Canada recruit on campus throughout the year. And these organizations like Goldman Sachs, Bell Canada, KPMG, Bain and Company, Deloitte, Ernst & Young are just a handful of these brands that come and recruit, both from an internship perspective and for new graduates. However, for those looking for a business program with co-op, unfortunately, Queen's Commerce doesn't have any co-op, and they show no signs of incorporating co-op into the program. So you're going to have to look elsewhere if co-op is a very important factor for you. However, with that said, the vast majority of students are placed within jobs. I believe the placement rate 6 months after graduation is in the high 90s, 90%. Year over year, it is extremely, extremely strong. Most of these jobs are in traditional corporate roles. So if you're looking for maybe entering a startup or doing something a little bit more non-traditional, then perhaps another program might be a better fit for you. However, if you're looking to get into finance, for example, investment banking, or with one of the big four banks, and accounting firms, whether you want to work in consulting, for instance, with McKinsey, Bain, BCG, where I was employed at A.T. Kearney, in marketing, sales, these types of sort of traditional corporate roles, then this is a very, very good fit for you. The great part about Queens is look at this gamut of different different business functions that recruit, and different opportunities that are available for Queens alumni. So, going to Queens Commerce will open your doors to many, many different opportunities within the business world, and not really close your doors to really any at all. However, if working abroad is very, very important for you, I at least found it fairly challenging to get a job abroad. Not really many people know about Queen's University and the Smith School of Business abroad. I graduated in 2010, and that was really in the middle of the financial crisis. And I was applying to anywhere from Australia, over in Europe, mostly more of the fast growing cities at that time, like Dubai. There was a city in Australia called Perth that was growing very rapidly, which is actually where I ended up starting my career. No one really knew of Queen's University. It wasn't called Smith back then. It was just Queen's Commerce and the Queen's School of Business. However, even when I was working down in New York, when I mentioned I went to Queen's University, they thought I attended a university in Queens, New York. So despite what people might say, the reputation is still, in its building phase. Getting a job abroad is going to be your responsibility. When I went to the Career Center, I was really pushed to start my career in Toronto because that's where, the vast majority of their employer connections are. And after I went on exchange, though, I knew I wanted to launch my career abroad. So I just told them, okay, well, I'm going to have to, I guess, take it into my own hands and really run with my career search myself. And that's what I did. But I was very, very lucky to get the job that I got. Okay, next factor, extracurriculars. This is where Queen's Commerce thrives. The Commerce Society, otherwise known as ComSoc, is the largest and most successful business student government in Canada. It is now been operating for over 50 years, and it has a tremendous number of opportunities, both in quality and quantity, for Smith students. There are 18 conferences and 33 clubs and committees with more than 750 positions available. Here is the overall sort of organizational chart for the Queen's Commerce Society. We have some internal clubs and committees, a bunch of different acronyms that you probably have no idea what they mean. And then we also have some other clubs and committees over here. And then these are all external conferences and competitions For example, here is the Queen's Finance Association Conference, the Queen's Marketing Association Conference, the Queen's Women in Leadership Conference. Anything, any topic that you can think of, there is a conference or a competition for it. And students travel from universities across the country and actually the world to attend these conferences and compete in these competitions. It is like an incredible organization that's run 100% by students here. It adds to your student experience immensely. And this almost replaces the need for a co-op program within the Smith School of Business. The experiences that I got launching a conference, working with different clubs and committees, seemed to be valued almost the same. Obviously, not with the brand name that co-op experience would give me, but they gave me a lot of great experiences that I was able to discuss on in interviews when I was recruiting. There's even a conference for high school students. It's called QLead, and I've spoken at it many, many times. I'm speaking at it this year. It is a phenomenal event. You get to participate in a number of different activities and competitions that give you a good taste for what it is to be a business student, particularly a business student at Queen's Commerce, and your leadership skills and experiences will be developed significantly at this event. So definitely apply. Again, the name is QLead, QLEAD. Okay, moving on to factor number 5, campus and the facilities. So Queen's was rated number 1 for most beautiful campus in Canada by campusrankings.com, which is my former company. I had no involvement in this. It is really just genuinely an extraordinarily beautiful campus. Here's a picture of it, right on the water, beautiful greenery and grounds, amazing limestone buildings. Lots of them have been redeveloped and modernized with glass and whatnot. Here is a demonstration of one of the new buildings. Here is this world-class facility that was just finished a few years ago called the Isabel Bader Center for Performing Arts. It's right on the water, and this is where a number of world-class musicians come to perform in this beautiful acoustics. This is just, one small example of the types of facilities that are around you and you have access to. So I know students that just like to go just walk around for inspiration around the water, around these types of beautiful buildings. Being in this type of environment for 4 years is really an amazing experience for you. In terms of athletics and recreation facilities, students ranked Queen's University number 6 in Canada. The ARC is what they call the Athletics and Recreation Center, ARC, the ARC. It's a really, really beautiful facility with indoor pool. This is the basketball and volleyball courts, a massive gym that is really of comparable to many D1 universities down in the US. Unfortunately, I only had access to the ARC for about a semester. We had access to a much less high quality athletics and recreation facility once I was there. So, if you have the luxury of attending Queen's Commerce, you'll get to go to this beautiful facility to, keep yourself fit and healthy. On the other hand, the student residences aren't really what they show you in the brochure. So I was on the Smith Commerce website, and over here is what they showed on the website once they were talking about the residences that students have access to. I have never seen this residence with floor to ceiling windows almost, and this bright, it looks like a single room. I don't know what residence this is. I'm sure it exists, but I'm not too happy with the fact that they, showed this very rare unit that maybe a handful of students will get. This is much more, a lot of people are doing like Instagram versus reality type thing. This is Instagram, this is reality. This is the type of very dorm ish unit that you're going to get access to. And it's also rare that you're going to get your own, and you're very likely going to be sharing it with someone else. I had a roommate who I shared my dorm with at Victoria Hall. But you're just going to get a standard single bed, a small desk, and some cupboards, and maybe a small window. So very, very different to what they show you on the Smith website. But the great part about it is you're going to be spending 90% of your time in this beautiful building that's called Goods Hall. They just finished this additional extension over here. There's another amazing extension and wing over on this side. This is an old school called, I believe it's called Victoria Public School. And funny enough, my great grandmother was one of the first students at this school. This is actually where my dad went to public school in this building, which they fully renovated and revitalized. There's now offices, and I believe actually there's just classrooms in this part of Kids Hall, and then everything else is just totally been modernized and is an incredible facility for you. So that's the facilities. Now on to the student culture. Queen's Commerce is really known for a work hard, play hard mentality. Here's a picture of students at Frosh Week wearing their iconic I Like Commerce t-shirts with the visors and the socks and everything like that. Frosh Week gives you a good taste for what you're going to endure in the student culture throughout your 4 years. It's a lot of playing hard and enjoying your time and socializing and somewhat of parties as well, if that's your thing. But outside of that, in the classroom, it is a highly, highly competitive academic environment. When I was a student, they would actually rank every single one of us. So we could go to the commerce office and we could ask for our rank, and they would say, you're X out of, there was only 300 students when I was going to the program. Now there's about 475. They no longer do the ranking. They said that it was there were too many complaints from students and parents. It was putting too much stress on students. However, you will know if you are in the top 10%, and that is the only thing that you will know. So the competitiveness is still there. Everyone wants to vie for the top 10% to get into that, very exclusive club, if you will, to be able to put that on your resume. So it's still extremely competitive, just in a different way. In terms of academics, you're studying business from day one, which is a great advantage over other programs like Western Ivy's program. I didn't want to study non-business courses for 2 years and then start studying business for the last 2 years of my education. I wanted to, right at the beginning, start studying business, figure out what I wanted to, devote my studies to in the latter years so I could sort of focus and specialize on something. But, unlike other courses, I remember applying to McMaster University, and they forced me to choose if I wanted to major in marketing or, I believe, accounting or some other different majors, and I had no idea what I wanted to major in. So the great thing about Queen's Commerce is there are no majors. Despite what anyone will say, there are no majors. Right on your diploma, it just says Queen's Commerce. It says a Bachelor of Commerce, nothing else. It doesn't matter if you specialize in accounting or marketing or whatever. It's a generic commerce degree. And to me, that's a huge benefit because I wanted to go into management consulting. I love sort of keeping my options open. I love all aspects of business. And so Queen's Commerce really does focus on giving you the training on becoming a well-versed business person across management, across communications, accounting, marketing, organizational behavior, quantitative and financial analysis, and economics. So it is, you'll be studying anything and everything in your first 2 years, and the opportunity in years 3 and 4 to specialize and sort of pick your courses a little bit more based on what your interests are in. The vast majority of learning is lecture-based, so this is another big difference versus some of the other business programs. Another example being Western Ivy, which is pretty much 100% case-based. Queens leans more towards the lecture-based style of learning, as seen in this photo, where a professor, stands up in front of 60 to 90 students and talks about the details of a textbook. So if this isn't really your style of learning, then you'll probably want to investigate something that's more geared towards case-based. I'm not saying that Queens doesn't incorporate any case-based style of learning. I'm just saying that they lean more towards the lecture-based style. Another thing is, if you don't enjoy travel, which I'm sure is a very few number of you out there, or if you potentially are an international student and want to spend your 4 years at Queens in Kingston, well, I believe over 90% of third-year students now go on exchange. So if this is not your thing, then you're going to feel left out. In the Queen's Commerce program, they have a vast list of exchange partner countries. So on the flip side, if you do want to, incorporate a study abroad program into your undergraduate experience, this is an incredible program for you. It doesn't mean that you have to extend your graduation. You still graduate in the exact same time as everyone else, 4 years. And again, you're going to be going on exchange with many of other of your students. Over 90% of your classmates go on exchange. I actually did 2 exchange opportunities. In the first year, I went to Hong Kong, and in the first semester rather of my third year, I went to the Chinese University of Hong Kong, and in the second semester, I went to the Queen's University International Study Center, what's called the Herstmonceux Castle, or AKA just the castle in the southern part of England. I found a little bit of a loophole where I went on exchange for a full year, which I don't believe is available anymore. But if you want to go to it on exchange, this is really a great opportunity for you to, embed travel into your undergraduate university experience. Okay, factor number 8, alumni. Join the likes of Elon and Kimball Musk as an alumni of the Queen's Commerce program. Now, with a little bit of an asterisk on Elon Musk, he didn't actually graduate from Queen's Commerce. He switched to, I believe, UPenn after second year. However, his brother Kimball did graduate from the Queen's Commerce program. Here's a couple pictures of him back in the day when he was a student here. There's a lot of amazing alumni from this institution. Every single student that I went to school with is doing amazing things, really, with their careers. Some of them are going through, more traditional corporate routes. Some of them are launching businesses and working with startups and doing things that are a little bit more entrepreneurial. Probably more students are doing the traditional corporate thing, and in 10 and 20 years, I have no doubt that many of my classmates are going to be C-level executives at some of Canada's largest companies. So definitely a strong alumni quality here. Stephen Smith, a lot of people think that he was an alumni. He actually didn't graduate from Queen's Commerce. He graduated from the engineering program. However, he went to launch a bank and donated the largest sum of money to any Canadian business school, which was $50 million a few years ago. And that's why Queen's School of Business took on the name Smith. Um, so that's a little fun fact for you there. And then the last factor here is related to overall advocacy. So, in terms of the price to attend Queen's Commerce, it has gone up significantly since I was a student back in 2010. I remember paying around $13,000, which is what it was back then, and it stayed consistent in 2011. Then it did this big jump and did not slow down for the better part of 6 years. Last year in 2018, it hit a record at almost $20,000 per year. And this year we have seen some cuts. I believe it's Ontario-wide tuition cuts to give you a little bit of a break in terms of tuition. So I would say that at the $20,000 mark, I would say that value for what you're getting out of the commerce program, it is not as high as I'd like. But this $2,000 to $3,000 cut is a nice, is definitely going to, I would say that this is a little bit more of the value that that will be high for you as a student. 17,000 based on what you're getting, all of these student resources, all of the recruitment opportunities, the world-class professors, everything like that. I would say that it is a very, very good type of value that you're getting from this program. But the competition is fierce. We've seen applications grow significantly over the last decade. These are official numbers from the Ontario University Application Center. These are just my projections in 2017, 2018. They haven't released this data yet, but it is, they've reported it at around 7,000. It's definitely in the high sixes as of what has been reported from the Ontario University Application Center. Regardless, the competition is fierce and the number of spots are not growing. They're actually decreasing. So, when I was a student back in 2006 to 2010, it was hovering around 300 students in terms of enrollment and spots available as a student. And then actually the goal was to double the size of the program. And we always thought that that wasn't a good idea. Having 300 students was amazing because we got to know each and every individual there. I think I knew the name of everyone, and I had at least met and knew their background when I graduated. And that was an amazing part of the program. And so we were all skeptical about this mission to double the size of enrollment. And when they started growing the program and they got up to 552 back in 2014, basically they had realized that it lost, that tight knit quality that all the students loved about the program. And so they started to decrease enrollment again. And now I believe it's going to be hovering around 450 to 475 per year. So applications are increasing and now enrollment is not as high as what's been available in the past. So, with that said, if you need help, if you really want to get into Queen's Commerce after this video, if you say, absolutely, this is a good fit for me, I really want to get into this program, enroll in my Queen's Commerce Admissions Bootcamp, and I will take you through a series of comprehensive modules to break down the application, to build the skills and experiences you need to develop an incredible resume and to develop an incredible series of essays that will maximize your chances of admission and candidacy so you can stand out between all these other 6,000 plus applicants who, believe it or not, look a lot like you. You'll get one-on-one support from me, Joel. You'll get admission secrets that I've learned over 10 years of doing this and admitting around 90% of students who apply to the Queen's Commerce program each year get in under my guidance and coaching. You'll get boosted chances of success. So if you really want to get into this program, please do not leave anything to chance and stress yourself out even more than you already are. you'll be able to follow this very easy sequence of steps to keep you on track and focused so that you can get this application done on time and with quality. There are limited spots available for my Queen's Commerce Admissions Bootcamp, so go to admissionsally.ca to see if there's any room available, and looking forward to coaching you and getting you into your dream school. Guys, thanks so much for listening to this module all about Queen's Commerce. If you have any questions about Queen's Commerce, about this module, about my bootcamp, then please comment below, or message me at my email, or go to admissionsally.ca and send me a note there. Thanks so much, guys. All the best, and take care.